The hardest part about being an ASL interpreter is taking it from sign to voice. We call that voicing or reversing. And the hardest part about voicing is constructing an English sentence that makes sense from those signs. In this video, I'm going to give you 3 different scenarios where we're going to give you the signs, the right words for those signs, and then help you construct what the English sentence should be when you're voicing. Now, throughout the video, I'm going to walk through all the criteria that ASL interpreters have to employ when they're voicing. So, if you're a brand new interpreter, this is going to give you a real eye-opening experience into the mind, into the brain of the interpreter when they're working on voicing. And if you're an experienced interpreter, consider this a real interpreting challenge to see if your translation matches the signs, the intent of the signer. Okay, here's our first scenario. This one will be a doctor's office scenario. So here's one of the first things to remember as an interpreter. When I show up to sign for a deaf client, I guarantee I'm there early because I want to understand what's going on. If the deaf client is there early, I'm going to ask them some questions. Give me some background. What's been happening? What are your concerns? And by the way, are there specific signs that you use when talking about this situation? Now, hopefully the agency that assigned you this job, or the company or the business, or in this case, the doctor's office, can give you some background as well. All right, so here's this first scenario. Ready? I'm going to sign it for you. Then we'll give you the words, and then we'll work on the English translation, okay? Here we go. Okay, how'd you do? Okay, here's the words for it. Last month, this previous doctor that I saw, okay, so this doctor, this is the sign to inform, okay, he informed me, what is that? He gave me some feedback, a diagnosis, okay, he informed me and I was like, ooh, okay, do you see the face? And this says, oh, I understand. I'm a little off guard, a little surprised by that diagnosis. Thus, I did my research, my investigation, my homework, okay? This doctor, so the doctor I'm seeing today, okay, in his area of specialty, right? That's his discipline, his area of specialty. He is an expert. This is the sign for champ, okay? That means in his field, in this area, he is a leading expert in the field. Wow. Now, can you see how just the words, if I had just put the words to the sign, that would have blown the experience. Okay, it's not communicating the exact same thing. So, an idea would have been, last month, I received my diagnosis from my previous physician. That really caught me off guard. I was surprised and a little concerned. So because of that concern, right, I really did my homework. I checked all the medical professionals in the area, and in this discipline, this physician that we're seeing today is an absolute pro. He's an expert. He's the best in his specialty. Now, that should have blown your mind a little bit, right? That's why voicing is so challenging. I'm trying to communicate the intent, the emotion, all that goes along with it. So one of the criteria, one of the disciplines of being a good interpreter, accuracy. Okay, but accuracy as it relates not only to words and signs, but to feeling, emotion, and intent, right? Let's move on to our next scenario. Okay, so how did you feel about that first scenario? Part of the challenge of being an ASL interpreter. So we talked about these 2 things, and I've got a list of the things that I think are the disciplines that you have to work on being an ASL interpreter as you migrate from just signing to reversing for a deaf client. We talked earlier in that first scenario about accuracy, ensuring that the accuracy of the interpretation is it's absolutely crucial, right? You're translating not only the words, but the nuances, the emotions, and the cultural context. Keep that in mind as you interpret. Second, speed and fluency. Interpreters need to process information quickly and fluently while maintaining accuracy. This requires a high level of linguistic skill. In the interpreting profession, that brain is just rocking, right? Just really, really going quick as you're having to understand the signs, what's the situation, and what can I say? And then third, we've got jargon and technical language. So we're going to talk a little about some jargon here, all right? So let's see how you do. New situation, right? An individual is talking about their growing up time, okay? Their childhood, all right, growing up. So you understand what they did, and we're going to talk about an athletic event. All right, here we go, okay? Okay, you saw that last sign again, right? Champ. Here we go. During my high school time, HS, okay, while I was in high school, right, my football team competed, okay, they were, right, in a league, competed at state, and they took state champion, right? While I was growing up, I was in a high school football team. We competed statewide, right? And through all that competition, all those wins and losses, we were able to take state. There's your second scenario. So did you see how champ changed? This is the natural athletic sign, champ. We were champions. We won the league. We won the tournament. Did you see in the earlier scenario, when the doctor in his area of specialty, he was champ, right? He was the best at what he did, but in a medical profession. So you can see how jargon, right, and signs that represent jargon can change by situation, thus your language choice has to change, okay? All right, let's move on to our third scenario. Okay, so some more criteria here. How about managing stress and fatigue? You've got to be 100% present when you're reversing. Right? So how long are you reversing for? Did you get enough sleep last night? Did you eat? Are you tired? You've got to manage all those things in order to do the best job possible as an interpreter, especially when you're voicing and reversing. Next, about cultural sensitivity, right? What are things that culturally, both in the hearing and in the deaf culture, you need to be mindful of while you're reversing the signing? What about handling sensitive topics? What if the perspective of the speaker doesn't match your perspective? What, quite frankly, political, religious, medical, whatever that might be, what if you don't agree? Your job is to communicate faithfully the message of the person who's speaking. So your face has to reflect the emotion, what's going on. You can't be letting your personal biases, personal sensitivities, right, reflect on your face. Because as we talked about before, the face is absolutely more than half of the communication while you sign. Physical challenges, sitting for a long time and signing is hard. Okay, it's just hard. So teaming makes sense, practice makes sense, but I think the most critical thing is if you'll remember that one practice, show up early, understand the situation, get a feel for it. If you have a chance, talk to the speaker. What are you going to talk about? If you even get a chance to get a speech that's written out, that's wonderful if you get it before. But here's a little bonus point. I'm not a fan of trying to read and voice at the same time, because now my mind's doing too many things. I'm trying to understand their signs. I'm trying to voice it. I'm trying to process what I read. I find that really, really difficult. I'll try and read that first to get a sense of where the story's going, facts, dates, whatever. But I want to be in the moment. I want to be present so that my emotion, my tone, even my physical body, you'll see when I reverse, I'm going back and forth and getting excited and getting in a groove in the zone. Right? Some people, when it comes to athletics or hobbies or other things, will call it flow. One of the things I enjoy most about reversing is flow. When I've done my preparation, I understand the individual who's signing, and I can lose myself in the message. And oftentimes, as an interpreter with a lot of experience, I'll be asked afterwards, hey, you did such a great job. What about this? And what about this? And you know what? I quite frankly won't remember it, because for me it comes in the ears, the brain processes it, and it comes off the hands, and in between, it's just going. It's just in a state of flow. It's one of the things I love best about being an ASL interpreter. All right, here we go. Here's our third scenario, and this one's a little bit different. This one is going to be a hearing individual, a short clip at a funeral. All right, here's the sentence. Growing up with my father was like living with Mr. Rogers. Got that? You're at a funeral celebrating the life of his dad, right? And throughout this talk, we've been talking about what a great guy his dad was. Patient, kind, willing, fun, all those kind of things. So with that in mind, in that context, how would you sign it? Growing up with my father was like living with Mr. Rogers. So growing up, now if you stopped right there, you've missed it, okay? Does the audience, do the people understand what's the relationship with Mr. Rogers? Right? Now, if luckily enough you know this cultural meme, this cultural connection, it would be like this. Growing up with my father, you see that? Growing up with Mr. Rogers, why? Because he was kind, he was sweet, he was loving, because that's what the example of Mr. Rogers is trying to communicate. All right, there were three scenarios. My hat's off to anybody who does their best to be an ASL interpreter and try and reverse or voice somebody else. Guarantee you, show up early, be sensitive to your own self, be good at your signs, do the best you can to communicate faithfully, emotion, context, purpose, and you'll make a difference both in the lives of those who speak and in the lives of those who receive the signs you're giving, all right? Thanks. Hey, if you've learned something, would you subscribe? Find some members of your ASL class, those of you who are trying to learn, hop on the channel, and I guarantee you'll get better with practice, time, and commitment. Thanks.